I'm so glad you're with us today on the Clark Howard Show, where our mission is to serve you with advice and information so you make better financial decisions in your life. I forgot to say empowerment. We empower you every day. That's my goal. And today, I get empowerment from you in our first Clark Stinks. Woo! Rewind the computer, Clark, of the new year. And if you're new to the show, hopefully you're in for a special treat. And also in this episode, you're going to hear me do various checkup items for you. Did one a few days ago about how to get your streaming life budget in order. Today I'm going to talk about how to get your cell phone budget in order. But right now it is time for Clark
I should have
Stinks.
never encouraged you to speak.
You must think I'm pretty stupid.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you're right, pal.
Oh, Clark.
You didn't really do the
dance.
Christa dance today. You weren't feeling
it wouldn't
like
be special if I did it every time.
Okay.
Your advice stinks worse than my full garbage can left by the curb for a week in the July heat. This is a double stinky. You and Christa. On December 10th, Christa told a listener that LED bulbs may fail early if you put them in a fixture with a lower wattage rating than the LED's equivalent rating of an incandescent bulb. Not so. The equivalence is an imaginary number. What the manufacturer is trying to say is that the brightness of the LED is the same as such and such light bulb, but it's a made-up number. If you want to know how bright a bulb is, look at the lumens. The fixture only cares about how much energy is actually running through it and how much heat it generates. Both are indicated by the actual wattage used by the bulb, not that factitious equivalent wattage. You can put an LED that actually uses 15 watts in a 40-watt rated light fixture, no problem, and it will be as bright as a 100-watt incandescent. Greg.
100% correct, Greg, on everything you said. And what's so phenomenal is how cheap LED bulbs are now for lamps, that kind of thing. Routinely, we have them on Clark deals as little as $1, $1.25 a bulb. And what they save you in electricity over the years, I mean, it's a big number. And you know what else? The light from an LED bulb is whatever you want it to be now. So, you know, you like a soft white, a really soft white, a lighter white. You can even, many of them will do all kinds of colors. Whatever you want, you're going to have that with an LED bulb. And the quality of them is still up and down depending on the manufacturer, but they are a deal.
You stink like that musty old record you play over and over about credit card rewards. We get it. A person who spends $40,000 in charges would get an extra $400 with a 2% card versus a 1% card, and even a little bit more by cards with little stickers. But you don't listen when we want to hear the record about bank bonuses or brokerage bonuses that easily generate far more money. I earned $400 a month for less than an hour of work to open a new checking account and change my payroll direct deposit. A few alarms set on my phone, and I do the same the next month and close out the account after the bonus is collected. And this is like coin purse change compared to the $18,000 I collected last week from moving IRAs and Roth IRAs last March without changing a single investment from my Schwab and Vanguard Index ETFs. I can now switch and collect $20,000 a year for the next 3 years with a few account transfers. Please help your listeners by not playing credit cards so much and start informing them about the significant bonuses they can get. Joe.
Joe, I want to thank you for this. And Joe, you are a nightmare for the banks and brokerage houses because you are so methodical about this. So why is it I don't talk about a lot of these bonuses? Because these bonuses, you know, I get them every single week from banks offering me $300, $500, even $1,000 to open a checking account with them. As long as I set up, as you talked about, Joe, direct deposit. So I'm a little flaky. I am not like you that I keep the perfect records and I know exactly when I should move the money again and all that. You have to be your kind of personality to make these programs work. most of us fall right into the trap that the banks and the brokerages want, which is we move stuff over, and then when the reward period is up, we just leave it there. You're playing a great game of hopscotch, and they all know in their business models there's going to be 1 or 2% of people who are going to really wonderfully game the offers, and that's perfectly legal what you're doing, and keep doing exactly what you're doing. And thank you for sharing for others that are infinitely great at detail that they should be doing this too.
I think I heard Clark say Medicare Advantage health plans are dumping patients, in quotes, back into regular Medicare at an expense on the average taxpayer. I always thought that the whole system, regular and Advantage plans, is wholly supported by U.S. taxpayers. This is why I get upset when I read about hundreds of millions of these plans, the hundreds of millions these plans make by denying care to seniors. Please let me know if I stink or if it's Clark. John,
okay, so what happens in a Medicare Advantage plan is what you just said about denying care. So what will happen is somebody will be really, really sick who's in an Advantage plan. And the Advantage plan, one of the problems with them is they can work great for regular routine stuff. You can see how you might be saving money being in them versus being in traditional Medicare. But then when somebody gets a really, really complicated or expensive illness, that's when the problems with Advantage plans comes to the fore, because they make their money by the money they get from the federal government, and what they keep is the difference between what they have to lay out for their Advantage members' medical bills. That difference is what they keep. So the incentives are set up so strongly for the Advantage plans to deny life-saving care for people who need expensive operations or need expensive ongoing cancer care. And that's why there's the patient dumping going on back into traditional Medicare. So someone who has a catastrophic illness costs a lot of money to treat. And so that then, the Advantage plans were getting all this money from the federal government, and they were making nice money on you. Then suddenly you're expensive, and they're like, we're not going to take care of you. I don't know why you thought we were going to do that. And that's when people, to save their lives, if they have the family resources to do so, switch back to traditional Medicare.
Clark, you mentioned on your podcast that you thought you were too old to donate your body to a medical school for research. I can attest that is not the case. My father was 75 when he passed away, and prior to his death, he completed the application to donate his body to UNC Chapel Hill's medical school, and they accepted it. About a year after his death, UNC invited our family to Chapel Hill for a wonderful ceremony in which the medical students performed music to honor the people who donated their bodies. There were about 50 families in attendance, and it was very gratifying that my father had the vision to do that. He was a career academician.
Why are you laughing?
Because it shows I'm not an academician, that I can't pronounce that. And his final wish was to benefit education in any way he could. John, he sounds like a wonderful man, his dad.
That is really neat. And John, I'm going to see if I can do the same, donating to a medical school since I'm getting to the point that nobody's going to want my organs for transplant. So I love that, and I thank you for suggesting it.
And what a neat thing that UNC Chapel Hill does with that program. That
Yeah,
sounds
that's great.
lovely. What a nice tribute. On property taxes, Clark, you need to do your research on all 50 states before you pontificate. If you had studied the way Oregon does things, you would have learned that the assessed value of property in the state cannot increase by more than 3% per year. And unlike crazy California, property doesn't get reassessed upon sale, so there are no huge and unfair disparities. The only way property gets reassessed at a higher rate is if the owner does an addition or other major value-enhancing improvements, which is fair. Gordon, and lots of people wrote in about that.
About Oregon specifically?
No, just about that different.
Yeah, so, all right. So when I talk about something that affects all 50 states, obviously there's going to be generalizations. And no one has figured out what the perfect solution is to not driving people out of their homes as home values have risen. Several states have some method, like we're talking about with Oregon, that caps the increase by a certain amount each year for residents. In Florida, as an example, they have, I think they also use the 3%, except for the many people in Florida who own property there that are non-residents. And so this is something we'll find our way to, and it's one of the advantages of federalism, is that all 50 states are learning laboratories about how to solve a problem. And right now we have had a problem in many states that don't have a system like Oregon has or other states that cap how much property taxes can go up in a single year and then in turn not price people out of their homes. I want to thank you, Gordon, and all the others who wrote in about this. And I must have done a really bad job in my generalization about the property tax problem. And if I did a really bad job, I apologize for that.
You don't stink, but I think you missed an opportunity to explain something. A 22-year-old young man wrote in to ask about where to invest. You said index funds, which in my humble opinion is correct, but you didn't explain why. You often talk about index funds, but rarely explain the rationale so listeners can understand the thought process and numbers behind that decision. Some concrete numbers would be helpful. Here's some I think would be helpful to put things in perspective. It's impossible to time the market. This has been proven time and time again. The market on average goes up 10% annually, but this is a long-term number. It only goes up 52% of the time daily and is up 69% of the time after 1 year, 81% of the time after 5 years, and 100% of the time over 20 years. The market always goes up, but you can't tell when and for how long. Active fund managers don't beat that market 94% of the time over the long term.
Well, say that one again.
Active fund managers don't beat the market 94% of the time over the long term. They may beat it for a year or two, but long term, they don't. This year's winning managers are different from last year's. Market timing does not work, and this is the reason you should invest in the market as a whole in passive index funds. And that's from Linda.
Linda, thank you. That was a perfect explanation of my obsession with index funds, or the ETF equivalent, is that you don't have to be exceptional. If you just ride the market, you'll do fine. When you look at active people who go into active funds, they tend over time to trail the market by a significant amount of money. And the most important thing about being in index funds is that you stay the course. When we go into a bear market, which is a decline of 20% or more, we may be in a position that feels terrible for a year, year and a half, 2 years. You can't bail. You got to stay in. Think about 2000, was it 2007 or 8 that we were getting deluged from people that wanted to bail from their investments?
Yeah, I mean, I think 2008, yep.
And what happened to those people? They missed the run-up.
Yep, for sure.
One of the greatest bear markets of all time that emerged from that time of panic from the banking scandals. And capitalism reforms, heals, and grows.
You were talking about Walmart delivery service, and you mentioned that the tip was optional. It's my understanding that if you don't tip this driver that delivers from the store, in some cases, and it's really hard to tell with Walmart how your item's actually coming, the driver will get shorted. So it's important to tip if they're coming from the store. It used to be DoorDash drivers were doing this run. I don't know if that's still the case. I think in some places Walmart has their own delivery service, but it depends on where you live. Pete,
thank you for that. Walmart for a while did all kinds of experimenting with how they did their store deliveries. They would ask employees, hey, on your way home, do you mind taking a couple of deliveries? And the big advantage to the employee was they were getting tips. Obviously, if you have DoorDash doing it, it would be tips. Walmart, though, more and more is doing their deliveries with their own fleet of drivers and trucks. It would be the equivalent of Amazon delivering with its own drivers and trucks. Do people tip Amazon drivers?
I don't know.
I've not heard of that before.
Clark doesn't stink, but I believe not long ago he said it's okay to give out a VIN to someone who's interested in a vehicle for sale. Maybe there are stipulations, but I don't remember. I listed a vehicle yesterday. After Googling if it was safe, I gave my VIN to a couple of people who wanted to run a Carfax, but the requests kept coming. I went back online and further down in the search, and said it wasn't a good idea due to VIN washing. Looking back at who received my VIN, these two individuals weren't local and had zero info or posts on their pages. Whoops. Now my VIN is out there. Richard.
Richard, thank you. All right, so this is a complicated thing. What's happening is that people are duplicating your listing for sale to con other people who then pay them a deposit sight unseen for the vehicle. Is the most common thing that will happen with what you refer to. I've not heard the term before, VIN washing. I've heard it as VIN cloning. So it's hard because if you look on AutoTrader or you look any other car sale site, you'll now see that dealers of used vehicles routinely automatically have there where you can see the VIN on the vehicle and you can see potentially a Carfax report or something like that. It has become part of how people go about buying used vehicles because they don't want to buy trouble. Now you're talking about the other side of this, that people can have trouble from the actual VIN being supplied with the VIN itself, that you as the seller could have problems. I mean, it's just hard to know what to say because it's really useful for a car buyer to have a VIN so they don't waste their time with a vehicle that's been through significant damage. And while we're talking about damage to vehicles, I wanted to make sure you know about something that I had complained about, a problem I had buying a demonstrator vehicle. And somebody mentioned to me, hey, if you buy a demo unit from Tesla, they will not normally disclose unless you click deep into it that the vehicle has been in an accident. So I went on Tesla's website after somebody told me that, and sure enough, I found a demo unit for sale that didn't say anything about the fact that the vehicle had been in a wreck, maybe on a test drive or something like that, till I clicked on a sub-menu, and there it disclosed that the vehicle had had $5,850 in repairs done to it before it was put for sale. And that brings up again how important it is to do backgrounding on any vehicle you're going to buy. If it's a new car on a new vehicle lot, maybe not so much. If it's a vehicle that's a demo or 1 or 2 years old, really important to know not the mechanical of the vehicle nearly as much as it is if it's been in any kind of accident that would mean you're buying a vehicle day one to you that already has a problem that's going to make it worth a lot less and maybe also cause you problems down the road because of whatever accident it was in. Coming up ahead, I want to talk to you about something that we waste crazy amounts of money on, and that's our cell phones. Industries don't like for you to find the lowest price. And I'd say that's true today in the cell phone industry, not for your actual phone, but for the service. More true with it than most any other thing. And they benefit from having you completely confused. And if you, I only get to see ads during football season. But during football season, it's one ad after another, after another, after another for T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon. And they are all trying to pull a game of three-card monte on you, trying to get you to think you're getting a deal when you're not, and make the plan so confusing that your eyes are just losing focus trying to understand what you're signing up for. And that's by design. They want you to overpay. And there are a few things I want you to think about. You know, this is a back to basics that we're doing right now. This is one you have to hear repeatedly to get you to do it. If you by inertia are allowing any of the three bigs to abuse your wallet, and you have not shopped your cell phone plan for you as an individual or for a family group or whatever, if you haven't shopped it in 6 months, I guarantee you're paying too much. Not even a doubt in my mind. And something else that I've learned looking at data is a lot of us are paying for unlimited data on our cell phones when we barely use any. I love that since I switched to Google Fi, which is an interesting service to be with, I'll say. Google, it's one of the things that Google threw themselves in just a little teeny bit. They show me, I can look right now on my phone, and I can see through the billing cycle how much data each of us on my Google Fi plan are using. And there's a data cap with Google Fi. So it's important that you track. So we're not on unlimited plans because we didn't need an unlimited plan except for my teenage son. And for the rest of us, we use amazingly small amounts of data per month. So why pay for unlimited when we didn't need unlimited? That's just one example. But also, being with one of the big three, you can have multiple ways to be with one of the big three. And that's because each of the big three own their own captive discount brands. Nobody has more discount brands than Verizon. I cannot understand their strategy to save my life. But Verizon is almost like GM forever ago. What was it they used to say, a different kind of car for every different customer? Well, that's kind of how Verizon does it now. And just examples with Straight Talk and Visible and Total Wireless. They own these brands. And you have Verizon service on these brands, but for a fraction of the cost of being with Verizon. T-Mobile has a bunch of ones they own. AT&T's not done as much of this. They've got Cricket, but they haven't done a lot useful with Cricket. And they don't have a lot of these other brands. But you can be with a captive, one of their own brands, and save a fortune. Or you can even go with an independent, like I've done being with Google Fi. One of my daughters is with Visible. And so there are all, and that's a Verizon-owned brand. So I've got a couple of things for you. I have a phone plan finder tool where you can put in your situation, 1 line, 2 lines, 3, 4, 5, and figure out what are the advantages of being with this company versus that company. The goal is for an individual to save you $500 a year. For a family plan, to save you $1,500 a year. And so the question is, who couldn't use $500 back in their pocket, or a family with $1,500? And it's possible just by not falling for all the malarkey from the AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile ads. They may be cute, but they're not cute for your wallet.
And you can find that tool at clark.com/phone plan finder. We also have an article on the best phone plans, which is constantly updated. We'll go to questions now. This one's kind of funny. This is from Joe in Georgia. Hi, Clark. When you were talking about Amazon, did you say Amazon H-A-L-L or Amazon H-U-L-L?
Okay, Amazon Haul. I never thought I should have spelled it H-A-U-L. So this is Amazon's competitive response to all the market share they're losing to Temu and Shein. So what you do is you have to have the Amazon app to access it. And then you type in the search box Haul, and it takes you to the semi-secret Amazon Haul website or app where you see things that are crazy cheap. And instead of being shipped in, if you're a Prime member, in 1, 2, or 3 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 10 days, 2 months, whatever. So if you absolutely want it in a short cycle, Amazon Haul, H-A-U-L, is not for you. But if you want to get these ridiculously cheap prices, it's a great source. Now, I have been looking repeatedly at the items available for sale on Amazon Haul and comparing them to what's available on Temu. And Amazon's not there yet. Temu is a much stronger competitor, and Amazon's response so far is pretty weak. But with Amazon, give them time. And Amazon Haul, H-A-U-L, will almost certainly be a very strong competitor to the Asian websites, both Shein and Temu.
Dan in Ohio says, long-time Clarkie. I'm moving and selling my home. I hear ads for companies that will buy your house and you can just move. Are there legitimate companies that will give you a fair market price, or is it better to list it with a real estate agent and sell it the old-fashioned way?
So Dan, for a while, I could say, wow, this has changed. There's great opportunity selling to these websites that were using algorithms to give you the opportunity to sell your home quick, no listings, no showings, nothing like that. You would just sell it to them. You'd move when you wanted to. You'd negotiate that as part of the deal. And they were offering a near market price. And what happened was they lost their shirts. And I remember Zillow was in it for a while. What they call it, Zillow
I can't remember.
listings or something? Anyway, the write-offs they had to do. And
You sold a place that way.
I sold a place not through Zillow,
Right.
but another one of these that doesn't do it anymore. And I got a great price when I did it at the time I did. And it was a thing that people thought that they were going to be able to use, historical averages and mathematical formulas and squeeze out a nice profit and make people happy, giving them a guaranteed purchase of their home, and bam, you were out. And they couldn't make it work. And so I'm trying to remember Open Door and OfferPad. Mm-hmm. Can you look? Are they both still around while I'm talking about Dan's question?
I know OfferPad is.
OfferPad is. The offers for survival are not as generous as they once were. Now, there are others that particularly go after people who have a house that an elderly person may have moved into. So there's Open Door. Then the other big one at that time was OfferPad. See if they're still around. Yep, they're
I
both
know someone
still
who
around.
works for OfferPad, actually.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think either are going to be as generous as they were during the frenzy of this activity, which really dates back like 4 or 5 years when it was like a big buzz about this. There are still others out there making offers in addition to these two. A lot of them are looking for wounded duck kind of situations, an elderly person who's gone into assisted living, someone who's died, and so the heirs are trying to sell, and they don't want to go through the hassle of fixing all the things that need to be repaired to put the house up for market. Those are offers from people who are willing to buy any house, as long as the margin is good, they may be contractors themselves, they do the repairs, then they put the house on the market and they make money. You're not getting a fair market price selling your home because they've got to have the profit incentive of buying the house as it is, doing the work, and then scoring money on a flip. So if you're just a regular old house, it doesn't hurt you to get prices from companies like OfferPad and Open Door, and then see how they sound and look compared to what you've seen neighbors put similar houses for sale and what kind of prices they got for theirs. But if you ask me, I think you also bring in agents to talk to you about how they would market and what they would expect your house based on comps to sell for before you would sign up with one of these companies that say, okay, this is what we're going to offer you. You want it? When do you want to move? And you're done. Certainty is a nice thing, right?
Darla in Texas says, our car and house insurance is skyrocketing, but my teacher's salary is not. What can be done to decrease the cost? Do you have any company recommendations?
So there's no specific company, Darla, that I would recommend. I don't know where in Texas you live. I know that people in Houston and south of Houston along the coast are having the same kind of problems with homeowners insurance that people are having along the Florida coast, and I think more than anywhere, Louisiana is getting just clobbered with insurance availability for home insurance and the premiums. If you're not in Houston or south, then it's a matter of thoroughly shopping the market. There is no one it company that I would say, oh, go there, you're going to get a lower price. And when you do shop, it's good to get a quote for auto and home, and also auto or home with an insurer, because there are times you will get a lower price doing what's called tying, putting both insurance products together with a single insurer. But there are other circumstances that combined discount isn't worth it, and you want to see what is it for standalone from that company for auto, standalone for homeowners, and from other companies as well. It's going to take you some time. Make sure, Darla, you're quoting the same coverages. And if you can stand it, raise your deductible on your homeowners to the max you're allowed to under your mortgage. And if you have a loan on your car, the highest deductible your loan company, your bank, credit union will allow you to have, which is usually on a car, the highest you're allowed to raise it under your auto loan is $1,000, but you want to confirm that. Homeowners, as high as you can stand, you want to raise your deductible so you never make a claim on your homeowner's insurance except in a catastrophic situation, a catastrophic claim. And I want to thank you for making financial sacrifices to be a teacher, to be there for our kids. And good luck with the shopping. And thank you very much for joining us. I'll be back at your service next week on Monday answering your questions about your wallet. And all weekend long, you have our resources to serve you at Clark.com. Great deals for you at ClarkDeals.com. And while you're at it, why don't you consider signing up for our free newsletters we offer that will help you over time take much better control of your wallet. And know what we're devoted to, you, learning ways to save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off. Have a great weekend.